This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
Next on the 5 o'clock report.
Reached out to dozens of ships and shipping companies to encourage traffic flow through the strait.
They fired cruise missiles at the UAE and sent drones over there as well.
Our country's made up of a lot of small businesses.
Now, let's go to the newsroom.
Dire straits. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Mark Webster. A growing confrontation over the Strait of Hormuz threatens to unravel an already threadbare ceasefire between the U.S. and Iran. Bluster from Iran's IRGC throwing down the gauntlet, insisting it is they, not the U.S. Navy, that controls the strait, and the fate of dozens of ships stacked up there since war broke out 2 months ago. But CENTCOM Commander Admiral Bradley Cooper on Operation Freedom, begun this weekend, says those ships are moving again.
Reached out to dozens of ships and shipping companies to encourage traffic flow through the strait, consistent with the president's intent to help guide ships safely through the narrow trade corridor.
Cooper says the Navy has deep-sixed 6 armed Iranian speedboats that tried to interfere with commercial traffic being guided through the strait by American forces. Former State Department senior advisor Christian Whitten tells Fox.
Today, of course, they fired cruise missiles at the UAE and sent drones over there as well. That is playing with fire, but my guess is the president may allow a little bit more time.
President Trump has warned that if Iran targets U.S. ships in the strait, they'll be, quote, blown off the face of the earth. The other big story today is on the fight for life, which often boils down to what happens in court. After a halt, an often used abortion drug is again legal to obtain by mail, though only for another week for now. CBS's Katrina Kaufman lays out the situation.
What the Supreme Court decision does is it puts a temporary hold on a ruling that was made last Friday by the Fifth Circuit that restricted nationwide women's access to getting mifepristone via telehealth appointments and via mail.
The temp order gives justices more time to consider the issue. Use of mifepristone has become more widespread since the U.S. Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. A new Christian phone network will be the first in America to block pornography and LGBTQ content. Family Life's Sarah Harnish has the story.
Yeah, it's called Radiant Mobile, and it's scheduled to launch on Tuesday using T-Mobile's towers. Founder Paul Fisher says he's trying to do something about the pornography epidemic, saying, quote, "We have every right to create an environment that is Jesus-centric, void of pornography, void of LGBTQ, and void of trans." The phone network will use the Israeli cybersecurity firm Alet to sort website domains into more than 100 different categories, blocking all unwanted content. The price point is $29 a month. Fisher hopes to donate some of the subscription fees to churches that sign up. Sarah Harnish, Family Life News.
Thank you, Sarah. President Trump holding a summit for small businesses. Speaking from the East Room of the White House this afternoon, he said those small businesses are vital to America, calling them the lifeblood of our economy.
Our country's made up of a lot of small businesses, and that ends up being a really big business. Small business owners and operators, the people in this room, represent the 36 million small businesses who create 40% of all economic activity in the United States.
Trump says provisions from his so-called big beautiful bill, including no tax on tips and overtime, have helped small businesses get bigger. It was feet from a major air disaster. Audio from a camera inside of a truck on the New Jersey Turnpike being struck by the landing gear of a United Airlines jet that came in too low on its approach to Newark Liberty International Airport yesterday. Investigators from the FAA at Newark today looking into how that jet arriving from Italy hit a light pole and then that truck. The plane landed safely. No injuries reported among the passengers or crew, but the truck driver suffered minor injuries from shattered glass of the cab. A cruise ship at the center of a deadly hantavirus outbreak isn't being allowed to dock for now. 149 people on board, 2 seriously ill, 3 suspected to have died from the disease.
Health professionals are still trying to establish whether all the others who fell ill definitely contracted hantavirus or whether they are suffering from another disease. It's also an open question whether it spread from person to person on board the ship or whether each person contracted it separately.
Stuart Smith reporting. And the man known as the voice of the Yankees has died.
Ball game over. World Series over. Yankees win. The Yankees win.
That could only be veteran broadcaster John Sterling. He's died at the age of 87. His path to becoming a play-by-play legend began back in 1989 when he first started calling games for the Bronx Bombers. He'd go on to call more than 5,400 regular season games, hundreds more in the postseason before retiring in 2024. A sampling of his play-by-play artistry.
That ball is high. It is far. It is gone. Third Eagles boom. The Bamtino. Georgie Juice one. The Giambino. A thriller by Godzilla. Robbie Cano. Don't you know? An A-bomb from A-Rod. All rise. Here comes the judge.
All rise for veteran broadcaster John Sterling, dead at 87. Still to come on the 5 o'clock report, a recap of our top regional stories and highlights from today's issues in education. Checking the stories making news where you live across New York and Pennsylvania. Springtime brings a lot of joy, but also some problems, like trash buildup on the sides of roads. With all the snow gone, it becomes a big problem, especially in Syracuse right now. These frustrated residents speaking with CNY Central.
There's definitely some stuff on the ground.
Clean up the area a little bit. You know what I mean? They're like, let's spend a little more money and resources here of quality life.
In the heat, waste breaks down faster, leading to stronger odors and attracting pests, including rats and insects. State data show New York generates more than 42 million tons of waste a year, the average person throwing out more than 4 pounds per day. 80% of the trash eventually winds up in landfills. People in the Syracuse area are asking for more frequent trash pickups, additional public garbage cans, and stronger enforcement to prevent illegal dumping. Marijuana could soon be coming to a farmer's market near you. Licensed dispensaries in the state can now host temporary cannabis pop-up stores. The New York State Office of Cannabis Management says those retailers are now allowed to engage with customers with authorized pop-ups at farmers markets, public markets, and other retail spaces. The board is requiring permits and promising to keep guardrails in place. Cannabis use in New York State is up 17% since weed was legalized in 2021. President Trump recently signed an executive order meant to expand research and improve access to psychedelic drugs for mental health treatment. Health experts say the move could mean significant gains for the 1 in 3 veterans nationwide who struggle with depression and PTSD. Derek Coy with the New York Health Foundation.
A lot of veterans in particular aren't really excited about taking medication, or they've had experiences with it and it didn't work. So knowing that a lot of these treatments, they're also an alternative to more traditional medicine, I think that's appealing to folks who have maybe tried the former and really haven't had a good experience with it.
Coy tells Spectrum News psychedelics could help vets with mental health issues, including thoughts of suicide. New York State Assemblywoman Linda Rosenthal agrees.
People who are using that, who are not sellers, who are not dealers, but are using it for their own therapeutic means, should not be criminalized because of that use.
Rosenthal is sponsoring legislation to decriminalize adult use of psychedelics. Still others, though, not convinced of the medicinal benefits. Meantime, the suicide rate among former service members in New York is at its highest level in more than 20 years. Nationwide, though, the veteran suicide rate is down. An hour-long service just wrapping up in the Keystone State at the Pennsylvania State Police headquarters in honor of the 105th member killed in the line of duty in the PSP's 120-year history. Corporal Timothy O'Connor killed in Chester County during a traffic stop, the 40-year-old officer leaving behind a wife and a young daughter. Governor Josh Shapiro had this to say to those assembled.
I must say Tim was the absolute best of us. He embodied this department's legacy of service. May his memory forever be a blessing.
The Pennsylvania State Police nearly made it 3 years without a single officer killed in the line of duty. The last time, June 2023, when Trooper Jacques Rougeau was fatally shot in Mifflintown after an ambush. Pennsylvania's Attorney General Dave Sunday is joining an antitrust lawsuit aimed at blocking the mergers of 2 major TV station companies. Sunday and several other Republican attorneys general have joined a federal lawsuit blocking the merger of Tenga and Nexstar, making that a bipartisan effort. There are now 13 states represented represented in that suit that would try to stop the companies from owning 264 TV stations across the U.S. And people in Cumberland County, Pennsylvania, showing up Sunday to donate bicycles for a good cause. Recycle Bicycle Harrisburg teamed up with Mount Calvary Episcopal Church in Cap Hill to collect and refurbish bikes to give to those in need. Church spokeswoman Judy Hawthorne.
Our youth group is very involved in collecting the bikes, pumping up tires, cleaning the bikes.
Hawthorne tells WHTM the goal of the program is to provide transportation to those who need it, as well as a way for kids to exercise and just have some fun. Up next, highlights from today's edition of Issues in Education. This week, our Bob Price and Dr. Ralph Kerr from the Teaching and Learning Institute in Houghton, New York, focus on this being National Teacher Appreciation Week.
We want to spend the entire broadcast today bragging on our school teachers. What are some of the biggest challenges our teachers are facing nowadays?
Well, before I say that, Bob, let me just say that teachers are some of my favorite people. I really respect the work that they do. I did it myself early in my career, and the challenges that they face are totally different than when I was teaching. I especially respect the Christian teachers who have chosen their vocation to teach in the public school system. I think it's a mission field unto itself, and I want to salute every single teacher.
Amen.
When we look at some of the challenges that they face, first of all, the learning gaps, which goes back really to COVID, and then also absenteeism. I got 7, so I'm going to go quick here. Student behavior and mental health, technology, and AI, and then struggles with the curriculum and the political pressure and even some of the pressure that unions put on their teachers, and then a lack of parental support. There are safety concerns. There are expectations that schools now put on teachers to be a mediator, to be a counselor, to be a tech manager. Again, you've talked about challenges. They've got it in the classroom, that's for sure.
Definitely. And I was shocked when I read this statistic while preparing for today's program, Ralph. Nearly half of all teachers will end up quitting the profession within 5 years. Does that surprise you? And if that's true, how come?
No, it doesn't surprise me in that it's been a stat that's been around now for a while. And it's really too bad because districts invest money into teachers, and the teachers themselves have invested years of education and learning. You know, there's a sort of workload shock. They have to do a lot of lesson planning for multiple levels of instruction, the grading and data collection and meetings and the paperwork. All of that is the reality that teachers face. And the other thing is $45,000 for a starting salary. Nobody else starts at $45,000. We should be doing better than that with our teachers.
Yeah, you told me years ago on this program, we got to pay our teachers more at the front end, and maybe the retention recruitment problem won't be such a problem in our schools. It's National Teacher Appreciation Week, and we're celebrating with Dr. Ralph Kerr. The entire program today devoted to our educators doing such a great work in the classroom. Ralph, what are some practical ways that we can show our teachers how much we appreciate them?
Well, I want to break that into 2 categories. One, first of all, parents of students that are in the school. I want people to really be specific in what they're saying, not just a general praise. But if they can say, you know, the way you help my child in gaining confidence in reading, it's changed things at home for us, and we appreciate that. Or that your classroom routines are clear and really helps my child stay focused and respectful. Those are examples of really expressing specific praise. And then attend the student conferences. I mean, teachers prepare for those, and many times the parents just don't show up. And also, just a thoughtful email may actually be more appreciated than a gift card. And then for administrators, we need to do a much better job of providing basic supplies. There's no excuse for teachers having to go out and buy supplies for their classroom. And then finally, provide meaningful professional development for the teachers, not something that they attend because they have to and then come away and say, well, I really didn't get anything out of that professional development.
Yeah. I tell you, we can all think back to who our favorite teacher was growing up. A lot of us, it's in grade school, others middle school or high school, maybe even college. But I want to ask you, Ralph, all your years of working in education, who was your favorite teacher and why?
Well, it's interesting. Mine was a high school math teacher, and he used to say regularly to all the boys in his math class in high school, you guys are going to be good for nothing but digging ditches.
Yeah.
I don't mean to be putting down ditch diggers at all, because today that's a very worthy profession. He was using it as a put down. I've often thought about him. In one way, it became a motivation for me as I went and got my master's and then ultimately my doctorate. I wish I could go back and say, well, this ditch digger did okay after all.
He did.
Thank you for your motivation.
That's awesome. And I know you've shared that story with me before. Sometimes what man meant for evil, God meant for good. And in your case, that was certainly the case.
Thank you, gentlemen. You can hear the entire feature and all of our Family Life original news features at Apple Podcast, YouTube, Spotify, and FamilyLife.org. This is the 5 o'clock report on Family Life.
What would change if you trusted God just for today? Hi, I'm Rob West with a Faith and Finance Minute. In Matthew 6:11, Jesus teaches us to pray, "Give us this day our daily bread." That's a powerful shift. Not weekly bread, not future security, daily bread. In a world obsessed with tomorrow, Jesus invites us to trust God one day at a time. That doesn't mean we stop planning. Scripture affirms wise saving and preparation. But our planning should never replace our dependence. The real question isn't whether you have enough stored up, it's whether you trust the one who provides. So today, ask God for what you need, thank Him for what you have, and trust Him with what comes next. Remember, God's provision always meets you right where you are today. Get biblical answers to your financial questions in the Faith Fi community. Download Faith Fi, Faith and Finance in your app store or visit faithfi.com.
Thanks, Rob. Finally at 5 in America's semi-quincentennial year, that's 250, an apparently happy ending for one of America's best-known symbols. Maybe you've seen the U.S. Steel bald eagle cam trained on an eagle's nest in the Mon Valley Works in West Mifflin, where one of the eaglets there ran into trouble recently when its parent unknowingly fed it a fishing hook inside of part of a meal. That led to a tricky rescue and an arborist climbing up to the eagle's high perch to grab the ailing eaglet for equally tricky treatment. Carol Holmgren, Executive Director of the Tamarack Wildlife Center in Sagertown, PA, tells KDKA.
The challenging elements were medical treatment for a fish hook that had been ingested. That was a life threat to this eaglet that had a human cause and warranted human intervention, so we got permissions for that, lined up a phenomenal avian veterinarian to respond. Ultimately, surgery was needed, which is risky.
Risky, too, for the two guys who climbed up to the eagle's nest, not only because of the height, but the potential for being greeted by some angry eagles.
There is always that chance. It's important that they wear a helmet. However, that is not typical for this species.
The rescue, surgery, and return were all successful, and the eaglet, with the strange name USS 111, is back in the nest, dining daily on what we now hope is hook-free fish. And that's the world we live in for Monday, May the 4th be with you, 2026. Thanks again for joining us. I'm Mark Webster, Family Life News.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.